It was crazy. And, we were off and running to a dead end and a cliff, but we were running.
Hi, I'm Jim Kirlin, the longtime editor of Taylor's in-house magazine, Wood&Steel, and this is Wood&Steel, the podcast, where we're sharing stories about the guitars, people, ideas that shape Taylor guitars today. My co-host today, Jay Parkin, our Director of Artist Relations and Sponsorships, right?
Partnerships.
Sponsorships,
partnerships, all the same, right?
Ends in a ship.
Yeah.
And
I'll sponsor you after this podcast.
And joining us, none other than Taylor co-founders, Bob Taylor, Kurtlistug. So happy to have you guys here. It's really exciting. This is the first episode of this new podcast, Wood&Steel. And obviously the namesake is from the magazine. So we thought, we know who to get for this first conversation. We need to get Bob and Kurt in there. Go back to the beginning and kind of talk about how this all got started. It's got to be deja vu a little bit for you guys to be in this room together because you spent, I guess,
a couple of years
intermittently with sessions talking about in a different podcast, Taylor podcast called American Dreamers, 50 years of Taylor guitars.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Like if anyone hasn't listened to it, watched it, it's really enlightening, whether you're a fan of Taylor, a fan of guitar making, or a fan of business and entrepreneurs. Like there's so many great stories in there. So I encourage folks to check that out. But I was going to ask you guys before we dive in, like, what was that experience like for you? Because that was the first time you both kind of sat down together and kind of retraced the whole story from, well, before the beginning, because it kind of went back to when you were teenagers. What was that like?
It was fun.
Yeah.
Because you start talking about it, and then the memories, normally the memories aren't there, but you start talking about them and it fills your head, so it's a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed it reminded me just when Kurt and I would cooperate on remembering a story, right? He would remember a part of it. I'd remember a part, or I'd remember something. He'd remember it differently. And I'd go, oh yeah, exactly. And to me, it was like a short session of like the story of our cooperation over the years, caring for each other, caring for the business that we had together, making sure we support each other. It was easy to do. We've had a great partnership. It's been, 2 weeks from now, we'll have 51 years together. That's a long partnership. For sure. And it's been a good one, really good one.
Yeah. I hardly know where he is or what he's doing these days. But all those early years, working together. And how about it? What do you think about this idea? Oh yeah, go for that. And I want to do this. Great, let's do that. Working just like that for decades, growing the business and hard times and really thrilling, exciting times. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I was in Mannheim all last week for a guitar show, and Kurt sent me a text, a little video clip of ABBA playing.
It's so good.
Is that 1981?
In 1980, she's playing an A15.
Yeah.
Mustache Bridge.
And he's like, this is like one of the first times we saw a celebrity. That was like 1 a.m. too, or something like that. Mm-hmm. In those days, no cell phones, no anything. We'd have to call him on landline, It didn't seem like, hey, I'm calling him on a landline. It was called the telephone. Yeah. I called him on the telephone. Are you up? Was it Midnight Special or
something like that? Yeah, I called you at in Lemon Grove, the little house that you and Cindy had.
So it would have been pre-August 81.
Mm-hmm. It must have been a big deal. But those moments in the early days of when you saw someone on TV playing a Taylor, like, wow, I recognize that guitar.
And Kurt even just reminded me who it was that got it in his hands, Ushi Eastman. Yeah.
It was her and her husband. And what they would do is they would buy guitars from us. And that guitar, she'd gotten to Benny England in England Music in Sweden, in Stockholm. And, Benny was the guy, so he got the guitar to ABBA. The next thing you know, they're on TV playing it.
When you hear Kurt tell a story like that, everything about them from 45 years ago makes you wonder when someone's being deposed, and it's like, were you? I can't recall. You know what I mean? It's like
I do not
don't have any recollection of that.
They can recall.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's convenient to not have a memory, right? Keeps you out of trouble. Remember, Ushi, we did that catalog, that first catalog we did with, I forget who, the First Impressions was the design house. And
See what I mean?
yeah,
There we go.
and that fellow that had the Porsche 356 that needed a paint job was the printing rep. Remember that? And they delivered all the catalogs, and then took us a while to pay the bill. And so we knew he lost his commission. So then we offered to give him a guitar later to make it up for him.
Yep.
And then turned out his crankshaft had broken on his 356. So that's where the money went. He wasn't able to repaint it. But anyway, we're young and we're really, speaking for myself, I was pretty stupid about some things.
Both of us.
We printed all these catalogs, and then we were doing the NAMM show in Atlanta that summer. And I shipped with me on American Airlines every box of catalogs to Atlanta for the show. I don't know why I did that.
I remember unloading them all into a hotel room.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Lordy. And that smell of ink.
Yeah.
And they're just
yes.
stacked up.
Yeah, that smell.
And then
That was really stupid of me. But anyway, so Ushi
you
saw
had
that
high
catalog.
hopes, Kurt.
What's that?
You had high hopes.
We had,
You
we
were going
had
to give away
hopes.
all those thousands of catalogs.
So
at
she
that
gives me a
show.
call. She says, "Oh, I saw your catalog, and that's the best catalog I've ever seen in the industry." And so she drove down, and she had some like kind of classic Mercedes, and she's dressed really nicely in a suit. Then meets with me in that dirty, dust-covered little office we had in Lemon Grove.
Yeah.
It
was a pigsty.
Yeah, it was gross. But she was looking for more stuff to sell. So and it lasted a few years.
This is the fun part.
2 logs burning off each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best.
So
Well,
good.
it was nice going to those shows back then because you go there and you go, actually, people like our guitars. And this woman saw our catalog, Ushi, and thought it was nice and came down and visited us and did business with us. And I was just in Mannheim last week, and it reminded me that people love our guitars. We stood there in that booth, and when you're a guitar maker, it's never really done. When am I going to use that set of Brazilian rosewood that belongs to me? It's probably never, because I keep hoping to know how to make a guitar. I don't want to do it now because I might be a better maker next month and next year, and I'm saving it, so I'll probably die with it unused, right? And then you sort of get that feedback. People come up, it's like, I love your guitars. Your guitar changed my life. I had this woman come through, German lady, just last week with 3 German women that take lessons from her. And they all just came up, and they just are absolute Taylor guitar fans. They know everything about it. Met another woman and her husband, and their hobby is Taylor. She plays, he listens. They learn everything about it. They've sent me pictures of their Taylor guitar family. They're ordering custom guitars all the time. They lay out the accessories, and they love them. They do a deep dive. They listen to everything from how we plant trees to how we make guitars, and send me a WhatsApp. I traded numbers with them. It's like, we looked at everything and we've decided that this is the company. When you're in an ocean of 800 guitar makers like that, you wonder how you even matter. And other people are getting the same response for their stuff too. We're not the only people there, but it makes a huge difference to go out and get feedback from people. Find out that what you're doing is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were getting that early on, like here and there when in the early days?
Kurt took me to,
Yeah.
the answer is yes. I drove up to McCabe's Music with Kurt after he'd sold them some guitars once on his own. And I went up there, and he had brought back some type of feedback. And I think they said, this is good. We'd like it if there was some more treble in the guitar. And I don't know what I did. I I did something, and we brought up the guitars and it was Jack McKenzie, I think, that received us there. And he's, I don't know what you did, but man, you sure responded to that more treble. And I'm like, Yeah, I meant to do that. I did that on purpose. It was crazy. And, we were off and running to a dead end and a cliff, but we were running.
That happens. I want to ask you guys about the origins of Wood&Steel because, I think it's become the things you talk about, getting the feedback from people. Like, I think that's what this turned into because it wasn't just us putting messages out to the world. It was a two-way communication channel where people had an opportunity to tell us what their guitars meant to them. But when did you guys first think about doing an owners, dealers newsletter? Did you guys have a conversation about it? Was that just you, Kirk, because you were on the sales and marketing side?
I thought about it for a while. And as people come and tour the shop, like they want to learn about it. They're into it. They love music. They love their guitar. They want to learn more about it, because they're into it. And it's important to be inclusive, to include people in the brand and share with them. So it was the early 90s. I knew we had to focus on building a brand. So I met with an ad agency and we crafted the campaigns we started running. And shortly after I got started with them, they introduced me to Scott Myers Design. And we did work with them they designed, Miguel Miggy designed the logo that we still use today. And then had the idea of doing a newsletter to tell people what we're doing and include them in what we're doing because they were obviously interested. I think our first one came out in 94.
It was summer 94.
Right.
And in fact, the first issue's right there and it's the Grand Auditorium's on there.
Yeah, there you go.
Had you done a catalog before that? Like, had you done some version of a catalog?
We done some catalogs, but this is really intended to be a newsletter. Yeah. And Bob gave really good input that it should be. He said the favorite kind of newsletter he likes is like on newsprint and it's not formal and shouldn't be institutional looking like something you get from your healthcare company. It shouldn't be glossy and professional. It needs to be something that people can relate to. Mm-hmm. So we started doing it on newsprint. And at the same time, we started doing some T-shirts and stuff. And since we went ahead and did those on newsprint too, and just had drawings of them. Very low budget. We had drawings of the first T-shirts and jackets and things that we made. So that just started the process, and then it evolved over the years. We would still every couple of years be doing a color catalog, which is crazy because it costs like $1 million to do, and all the work to design the guitars when you're going to change features of the guitars or introduce something new. And big, massive project to do that. And then as soon as it's done, it's out of date.
Right.
Because it can't reflect, what the next things you're working on, this and that. So after a while, the two merged. So it wasn't just a newsletter and it wasn't a color catalog. They really came together. And Brian Swartfeger, who was working for us then, kind of pushed on that too. This is in the 2000s. This started in 94. That was in the 2000s. So looking at how can we bring them together into like a magazine.
Right. So the ones, we've got the newsprints ones here, and then the ones that are more like a kind of traditional magazine with nice paper where the guitars really show well.
Yeah. You had an opportunity in those days to update the guitars 4 times a year instead of once every 4 years or 5, right? And it made a big difference. Now, we had a little newsletter before when Nancy Weisinger was working for us.
Back
called the Sounding Board, and I think it was the Sounding Board. Yeah,
and that really went to dealers.
That's what I thought. It looks like body content. It's more for dealers.
Is that 4 pages or 2? Is it?
It's basically 4 pages.
Yeah, it just opens up 4 pages. Yep. Yeah.
I want to ask about another brochure that came out. I think based on the language in this, Bob, this is written as if it were written right around 94 because it talks about you being around for 20 years. But this is one of my favorite things that we've put out. And this is basically, it's kind of your little, it's almost like a little mini manifesto of sorts. It's like the philosophy of building guitars. This must have come out right before the first issue of Wood&Steel. Do you guys remember this?
What I recall is that at home, I had a computer and America Online was there, and I saw some forum starting. And we'd always been talking about showing how we make a guitar. And I just wrote kind of how we make a guitar, like thinking like I'm going to contribute to our marketing. And then I brought it in, and I think you might have shown it to John Robertson. And he's like, there's potential with this. And he's like, this is what we should do, the Taylor on guitars. Then I edited a little bit, but he left it mostly, it sounds like me, I think.
Really in your voice. Like if I can hear you talking, and it's really, it's great. Like I think we should digitize this, and it would be interesting to kind of to share that with folks, because it's
Kurt may be right. I may be remembering
I think they probably
it wrong.
happened simultaneously.
That's what I said. I think it was symbiotic with that thing. And I thought, at first I was like, oh, okay. I thought I was going to try and, desktop publish my own thing. And then this came out, and it's like, all right, I can dig that. And you're right. It almost deserves a reprint. It's a pretty cool little thing. Can I see it? I haven't seen this for ages.
Actually, this is a really good piece of content. I was going to say this earlier. You guys were content creators before it was a thing.
before content as a
Before
word.
content as a word.
Oh, it's pretty cool. I mean,
You
there's
should
a
bring that
Cindy
to life.
inlay in there,
Yeah.
making cases. We were doing stuff then.
We just had a
it was
marketing
fun.
strategy.
It was a fun
meeting.
idea.
Resawing.
Yeah.
And I like how it's broken up in different,
Yeah.
the neck, like the kind of the anatomy of a guitar.
And it was inexpensive. It's something we could do, because you're always looking for the things that you have the resources to do, not these things where you'd like to do it, but you don't have what it would take to do it. There's always
It's kind of
something
like
you
a
can do,
church bulletin.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Kurt always worked with really good people, Scott Myers and John.
1940 Gillespie Way, back in the day.
And we did a second one that had kind of a tan cover, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a copy of that one, Jim?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
Okay.
Oh, you know what would be incredible? Thought we should turn this into a children's book. Bob telling you how to make a guitar as a children's book. That would work. Don't take my ideas. That would be a great.
How is this distributed? Did you
So
just ship
great.
them to dealers to have in store for people to come?
Yep. A sales aid to hand out.
Yeah.
A brand building thing.
It's just interesting that you're explaining the why you did things a certain way. And I think there's something in here about that really, I think, helps educate people and elevate their understanding about how to think about a guitar. Because of course, when you look at a guitar from a distance, it's a guitar, but it's more than that. Obviously, there's a lot going on. And I think that's one of the things that I think created a through line with Wood&Steel. I think I've always felt, and I started in 98, and so I started working on Wood&Steel at that time. There was always a sense of wanting to inform, educate without seeming, like we were condescending, but really to help give people information and to help them. And there's a sort of a tone in that writing of helping people, helping them understand, like, here's why a well-made guitar is going to be better for you, why you're going to get more out of it. Mm-hmm. So it seems, whether that was just an intuitive thing for you, or if you felt like you needed to differentiate Taylor out in the world with all these other brands.
It's interesting.
All the above.
Yeah.
When I remember one time with my family, my wife and my daughters, we had a stereo system and it's hooked to the TV and all that. And you had to do all this stuff to turn it on. And they're like, how do you turn this on? And I start explaining to them all. They're just like, we just want to know how to turn it on. But I felt this need to, this connects to this and you have to go, and then the signal comes through here. And so I've been.
This is a preamp. This is a power amp. Right?
And here's that. And they're just, we don't want to know all that. So I'm predisposed to try and teach the little why behind something. I just naturally do it.
Real interesting situation I was in a couple of weeks ago in Nashville. I stopped over to songwriter, producer, artist himself named Don Miggs. And I walked into his studio, and he's known for having this wild collection of guitars. And I walked in and literally hung a Jazzmaster on my shoulders, right-handed, And then he goes, feels really good, doesn't it? And then he took it and he flipped it over. And he said, now how does it feel? And I realized at that moment it was one of Jimi Hendrix's jazz masters.
Oh.
It was really incredible. I'm like, at that moment, I've been with Andy Powers before, and he'll say, ooh, I can feel the angels in this guitar. And that's how it felt. And then he goes, but now I want to show you something really cool.
You know, I wonder if you got the guitar from Rudy's in New York, because I thought I saw the guitar in Rudy's maybe 15 years ago.
He may have, yeah. He's a collector.
Okay.
But the other one was like this sentimental moment, and it was. I've had a lot of these moments working with you guys over the last 10 years, where it just something feels really special. And he opens this door and he takes me into this room that has a couple of extra acoustic guitars. And I see a Taylor headstock, and he pulls this guitar out, and it's an old 12-string with a mustache bridge. And he goes, I believe this belonged to Neil Young. And he put that on me. And that was something, just the stars align. That's what I've noticed with everything that you've done at Taylor. I think the most inspiring things for me have been those situations where it's really deeply rooted in us all now. Will we be glad we made this decision in 10 or 20 years? And I think that we all look at that, right? I remember before I started working at Taylor, I worked at retail for a little bit. I worked years ago at Sam Ash. And when the Wood&Steel magazine would come in, it was like I would sit there, and I always had great work ethic there, but you find yourself at retail boredom at sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. But I was never bored when Wood&Steel came in, because I would just sit in the acoustic room and just look at it, right? After I learned about the NT neck. It was that moment where I think you told me it was TJ, I want to say, was a rep who came in, and I walked into the acoustic room and he was on his knees, and this Taylor guitar was totally disassembled. And at first I got real, like, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, no, I'm the Taylor rep. Do you know our necks are bolt on, right? Mm-hmm. And that was his way of educating me. And at that moment is when I realized, oh, this is the whole company. The whole company comes with this educational thing in our DNA. And it's just really fun to just tell the stories and get behind it. And Wood&Steel always did that for me.
And then want to talk about this?
Seasonal tips.
Yeah.
Seasonal tips.
That was the humidity.
Getting back to
thing.
humidity, yeah. There was, I forget if it was, maybe it was the second issue. Like, I think it's where you had your call to humidity in there. But no, because it was a quarterly. So every quarter there was some other type of a tip for.
How did you project manage this, Jim, when you guys started in this format? Because I came into Wood&Steel when we were still quarterly.
Yeah.
And it was a big magazine. But at this point, how did you guys manage the workload? How many people developed it?
Well, I mean, I have to give props to my boss at the time who hired me, my mentor, John DiAgostino, who was the editor-in-chief. And so he was kind of the principal writer. In fact, I found an article that he had written before he started at Taylor. He wrote an article for San Diego Magazine. I think he must have been a freelancer.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because he was a music critic, worked for the San Diego Reader, the Alternative Weekly, and he was a music writer.
I think he wrote in the Reader and San Diego Magazine about us.
Yeah.
That's where we knew him.
Yeah.
He was a great writer.
He was a great writer. And he was a great
writer, very funny.
Great, super funny, great mentor to me, and took me under his wing. And so kind of when I came in, he and Amy DeGroot, his partner, they were kind of doing it, and he had freelancers, so we would have other people do, CD reviews and things like that.
How many issues have you been involved in? Yeah.
I started in '98, and it was a quarterly for many years subsequent to that, so probably over 100 all told. So,
yeah, I'll just take a moment here, because it's been wonderful for me to have you be the writer. Let's run it through the Kirlin machine, through the Kirlin wash, because he can fix up the things that I write or anybody else does and speak in Taylor voice. But, I've commented to you before, but I really mean it. It's so wonderful for me to be able to speak about something new we're doing to someone who has 28 years or whatever.
Yeah, coming up on 27 and change.
27 years of writing,
Yeah.
sitting down with me and writing about our guitars. It's just wonderful to not have to fill the whole thing in or explain what a truss rod is to the person writing about truss rods. Or, it's really, because there's more to it than just what the guitar is. It's the philosophy behind it and all of the tentacles that it's touching. Because that when we do something new, we try and, one of the reasons for it to exist, we want it to be multiple. Is it helping solve an environmental issue? Is it help solving a production issue? Is it help solving a marketing or a playing style or a pickup or there's a lot of things we're trying to hit all at the same time.
Yeah.
And you get that. It's just been wonderful for me to be able to work with you for 27 years. And I always just think, I can't believe that you can, after that long, you can write and it just seemed new and fresh.
And let's give him another nod here, Jim. You make all of us look 25% smarter.
Well,
after we're done writing.
Well, I have to be honest. Thank you, Bob. Thank you both for those comments. I think I tell people it's half joke, not really. I just try to pay attention to the smart people when they talk. And you've learned a lot about guitar building. There are a lot of people at Taylor, craftspeople in various departments, who know a lot. And I think I feel so lucky to have the opportunity to go talk to people and just listen and try to absorb that. And hopefully over time, that's kind of just been internalized in a way that I can understand, how we like to explain things, because it can be kind of complex. And the challenge is not getting into the weeds, because we are passionate about it. It's exciting, it's interesting, and there's a certain subset of Taylor fans out there who love the details of it, but you don't want to get lost in it. So I know that over the years, there have been stories that we've worked on where I appreciate the workshopping that's happened along the way to get the story right, because there's what ends up finally in print is not the first version of it. And that's I will tell you that. And that's okay. That's the way, that's the process. Yeah. And I think I appreciate that you have always had a desire to explain not just the what or the technicality of it, but the why why someone will appreciate it, why they'll have a more enjoyable playing experience. I also want to point out for both of you guys that you guys wrote a column the whole time too. And so people would ask me sometimes, so do you write Bob and Kurt's columns? And I'm like, no, they write their columns. That's them. I might give it a little edit or something and touch up, but they write it. So you guys sat down. What was that like? Did you appreciate having that kind of a mouthpiece to kind of, because you kind of could, we'd sometimes consult on it. What do you want to talk about? But you guys often had kind of a thought or a theme in mind that you just was relevant based on what was going on around the factory.
A couple of things. I had a mullet back here.
Yes, the mullet.
That's the mullet. And this whole cover story and through here.
Prize winning mullet.
Thank you. So this whole cover story all the way through is history. 20 years into it. It's weird now, more 30 years after this, to look at, the story about our history after we'd done it for 20 years,
Yeah.
But I think that people appreciated the fact that they felt like they were hearing, there was an authenticity to you guys, your voice coming through. And, I've said before, I think Taylor, partly because of Wood&Steel, because of our presence at trade shows and just at the factory giving tours, Taylor is a brand that you can know, or you feel like you can know, because there is a certain personality to it. And I think we've always tried to be true to that, because I think that it's a relationship.
Kurt, you and I recently spoke about this with the artist relations side of things. It's not necessarily what can that artist do for us, it's how can we help that artist. Mm-hmm. And you guys have put that out there. You put that,
we want to help them play music. I heard, it was a great conversation. I was at a show with Andy Powers, and an artist said, man, we're just so happy with what you guys do. And Andy said,
you as an artist making the music that you make give us purpose for what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that sums it all up.
Yeah, that's the highest purpose of what we do, to inspire people to create more music.
Right. We are inspiring people to create more music.
Well, should we call it a day?
Sure.
I think that was a great conversation. I really appreciate you guys sitting down
You're
and
welcome.
talking
It's
about
fun
this
to talk.
stuff. It was really fun. It's refreshing.
So as we're doing this Wood and Steel podcast, so are we going to call them episodes or issues?
Feels like an episode.
Yeah, it feels like an episode. All right, fine.
Well, there are episodes with issues for sure.
I mean, 100%.
We definitely got
Yeah.
issues.
If you like content like this, hit the like button, subscribe. We'd love it.